Hi, and welcome to another Vagrein participant session. This one is really interesting because it kind of jumps all over the place, but towards the end, you'll realize that the entire session is very much interconnected and interrelated. It is my pleasure to continue bringing you these sessions, and I'm ever grateful for the participants that allow me to share it in this way. Please make sure to like, subscribe, comment, and share these sessions with others so that more and more people can find out about Vagrein's messages and I can continue bringing you all of this amazing content for free. Enjoy. Now to you. We are pleased to be meeting with you in this fashion and are eager to discuss with you anything you so choose to know more of yourself. Hello again.
Hello. Thank you so much for this opportunity to spend this time with you again. And I was mentioning to Jessie, and she actually mentioned something really interesting to me that connects to what I wanted to talk about. And I've been, living with this wisdom and trying to integrate it more into my life. And I'm successful in a lot of areas, but where I find I still have some resistance and where I would love to be more in the flow and in the miraculous is in my business. So I'm a real estate agent, very successful, but I find that a lot of my success falls back my habits of efforting and overworking and doing too much. And I would really love to have more ease and more flow in my work life. And I wondered if you have any insight or suggestions around how I can more incorporate ease and harmony and flow in my work life.
So you did say it falls back to your habits, which means that your tendency to effort or to work harder than need be are things that are based upon some level of belief that you have had that effort was necessary. And you are almost in a more difficult position than someone who does not have success because you already know what works to some measure. So if your success is measured by the amount of properties you are selling or the amount of money that is arriving to you or the amount of clients that you are able to interact with, then yes, indeed, that exchange of your effort and of your energy overworking is what is successful. But you would not be perceiving of as too much or too much effort if it were in this now moment still appropriate for you. In other words, are you actually successful if you are not living the life that you are wanting to live, or you believe that you cannot? Wouldn't success, the actual word of success, encompass you not only having reputation or monetary gain or the ability to continue in the direction that you are going in, but also those other aspects that are a measure of your abundance or wealth, an abundance of relaxation, an abundance of time to yourself, an abundance of joy? If your success is robbing you from anything that is of your desires, then it is not a success at all. We know this is not good news. Because if this was a complete statement and where we left things, you would be in a position where you went, well, now, not only am I tired, but I have just discovered that I'm not successful. We will not leave you in that state. What we will say is that there is a way to begin to have that complete realization of all of your desires. You can still have financial gain. You can still have many clients. You can still have the ability to interact with your business in the ways that you want to interact with your business, and also have an abundance of relaxation, ease, confidence, and faith that that success, what you are now calling success, will continue by integrating and understanding that it is a complete package. How does one do this? With experimentation. Very gentle, very gradual experimentation. In other words, your belief in this now moment is that you must effort to the level that you are doing in order to maintain the level of what you called success that you are having. Is this correct?
Yes. Yeah.
You are in a space where you believe that you cannot relax more than you do.
Yes.
So what one is asking of oneself is to experiment. What happens if you let go a little bit of control? What happens if you let go a little bit of attention or focus? What happens if you reduce a little bit the amount of time you are focused on these things? Now, we already feel before you respond that resistance that you spoke of. Problem is not the resistance. It is not the emotion that you are having right now, as we say to experiment with letting go. It is your desire to escape from that emotion and not experiment with it. That is in where the fear has come in. So, is there a belief within you that if you reduced your hours to something that felt more holistic for you, even if it was giving yourself an extra hour a week, that something could go wrong?
There must be, because as you were saying, even before you mentioned emotion, I felt it welling up inside, and then I have tears. I'm crying, which
Yes.
I'm not sure why I'm crying.
You are trying to release it. It is fine.
Yeah, so I think there is a fear. I don't know what the fear. I don't really know what the fear is with letting go.
It is okay. You do not need to know what the fear is, because the fear or having fear in and of itself is enough information for you. Simply,
Right.
there is some belief within you that is not in alignment with the future version of you, with your current inner self. And so, in it not being in an alignment, you have the ability to continue with that belief, which is your free will, or to align with the actual belief of your inner being, which is that it will be okay if you let go a little bit. Now, the fear is not because it will not be okay if you let go a little bit. It is because you believe it will not be okay if you let go a little bit. So this is the request that the universe gives to you for faith. Faith in yourself, ultimately. Because if you did work less hard, so to speak, you would have more joy, you would have more energy, and in the hours that you did work, you might, because of this state of well-being, even be more efficient, would you not? You would have the impulse to call the right people in the right moments. You would have the impulse to make the right decisions in the right moments, because you would be feeling more well more of the time. So what potentially would lose an entire day's worth of working hours might only need to encompass 3 hours in total. But if you are not willing to experiment, then it is wise to let go of this question altogether, because it is not something that you will resolve on an intellectual level. You already know that this belief does not serve you. You already know that it would be a better life for yourself if you could be in a state of joy and bliss and excitement more often. What is needed from you now is aligned action. And yes, it is frightening, but you are brave. So you can, with baby steps, we are not saying to jump into a resignment of your position and hope that you are having the same financial remuneration every day. But we are saying that there are abilities and spaces in which you can stretch into this new version of self that does prioritize your well-being.
Yeah.
Why do you think you are working too hard?
Because of the things that you just mentioned, not as much joy, fun, excitement, but I know that it's my choosing. I know that I'm choosing to work hard at the expense of these other things.
Yes.
And so I am getting some benefit from doing that. In addition to the financial benefits of it, I am
Yes.
also getting something.
Well, you are getting the opportunity to not feel the emotion that is coming up right now.
Yeah.
If you continue to push yourself and work this hard, you are allowing or preventing yourself from feeling that fear. You are saying, well, this is what works, therefore I'm not taking a risk. I'm not putting myself in a position of vulnerability. By the way, that is not entirely true. Because, as you know, the world and life is very interesting in the way that it orchestrates things around you. So working hard is not a guarantee that things will be fine down the road.
Right. Yeah, that's interesting. Yes, I do. The reason that this whole question comes up is because I do want more fun in my life. I do want more joy in my life. And I find that I'm getting it sometimes in some areas of my work, I am getting that, but mostly in areas not related to working. And so I want to create more time for the other things that are bringing, like you said, more joy, more bliss, up leveling my well-being. But yet I just, like I started with, I fall back into the comfort zone of doing what I've always done and knowing the outcome of that and just kind of carrying along in that flow instead of the experimentation.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, can you make a commitment to the experimentation, even if it is ever so small?
Yeah. Yeah. I love that, because in my mind, I have been thinking it's one or the other, that I've been wrestling with. Should I just quit? Should I leave this job? And so I love the idea that, well, I don't have to leave. I just need to make these small shifts and small changes. So yes, I can commit to that.
Well, we are partial with the advice or the counsel that we give to others to those sorts of experiences that are comfortable for you. Now, you will, or would, or could also arrive at a situation in which your discomfort in your work, whether it be on a intellectual level or a physical level, in other words, you could find yourself in a position where you work so hard that you do have no more energy and you are in a physical state where you cannot work any further. Or you can get to a point where you say, well, you know what, I'm fed up with all of this, and make a drastic decision. But both of those are, from our understanding, less desirable to humans than perhaps taking on a hobby. So, the progression to your next chapter might be slower by carving out several hours a week in which you really do focus on what it is you would like to be doing. The progression might be more calm towards that new version of self if you are doing it in the step-by-step way. But you are also giving yourself the time to process and feel the fears, the time to process and decide what is it I truly like and does nourish me and what does not, and the time to not have a major crisis in your experience that would force you into new decisions. Now, there are those of you who like the merry-go-round and those who like the roller coaster. But we do understand that for anyone who gets on the merry-go-round, it is more comfortable to their physical being than the ups and downs of that roller coaster. You do not have to quit your job. You do not have to upheaval your entire life. You can and you will, with that experimentation, discover more and more of what is exciting to you. And as you allow that ball to get rolling, well, then you will find more things that are exciting to you. And if at first you started with 1 extra hour a week, well, now all of a sudden it looks like it would feel even better to have 2 extra hours and 3 and 4. And now those extra hours have somehow turned into something that substitutes your work. It can be an easy journey if you would like to choose it to be.
Yeah, no, I love that. I love thinking about it in that way of just a progression of an hour or extra, a couple of hours per week, and then having it natural. And I think you're right that I'll start to see that the overall benefit, that my business may be shifting, but it's not suffering. And that I'm feeling better about everything, which then carries out into everything that I do and the energy that I'm putting out there.
Yes.
Yes.
Indeed, you will find it is the case, because when you are taking care of yourself, imagining yourself to be a tool, the physical isness that you are, if you are a tool to your life, you are the most important tool. And if you are not maintaining and caring for the functionality of your brain, of your body, of your soul, of your spirit, of your relationships, of your everything, then what use are you to any project that you are undertaking?
Right. Yeah.
It must come first.
Yeah, that's great. Perfect. That feels good. Totally shifting gears. So I have a 20, he'll be 22 on Sunday, and then a 19-year-old, both in college. And I think part of the reason why I focused so heavily in my waking hours on working is because letting go and not worrying about them and the stage of life that they're in and the decisions that they're making, I found it to be much easier to shift that energy toward work. And so in that, though, I have received the benefit of, I do feel very at ease and very in harmony with what they're doing. I was much more controlling as a parent when they were younger, and felt that I had to just play a part in every decision that was made for them. And then realized over the last 5 or 6 years that that really was not my role as a parent. So I'm continuing along that journey of kind of rethinking my role as a parent. And I would love any insight that you have, particularly as they get to these ages where they are making big life decisions and they are having their struggles with that. I think this generation of kids is not so programmed like we were. To just go to college, get a job, work hard, which is kind of the programming that we grew up with. They seem to be looking for joy and looking for things that light them up. And I do want to support that. So any insight you have on parenting, young adults would be helpful and welcome.
Yes, so they have taught you well in that. You did have certain ideas of what parenting was, and you arrived at the teenage years in which they did have an instrumental role in helping you to realize that they were not ultimately of your control or your responsibility in the ways that perhaps before you thought them to be. That continues to be the case. If you can, in this now, because you did ask specifically about parenting adult children, perceive of them as any other adults in your frame, you will have a dual benefit. One, that you might have the benefit of seeing all of the other adults with whom you interact as if they were a part of you in the same way your children are a part of you, which is accurate. Each and every being with whom you do interact is an aspect of you. Secondly, you would have and give them the freedom to be who they are and be there as a loving home base, so to speak, where you can be there for counsel, be there for reference, be there for support, but nothing else. In other words, there's nothing that you need to or could ever tell them that is higher up than their higher self is already informing them to. Now, that does not mean abandoning them. It means being there in service, in offering, as often as they would choose to have that, and simultaneously seeking out the relationship you would like to have with these young people. So there are aspects of the relationship that now you would like to have a continuous interaction with them through their adult years, would you not?
Yes, absolutely.
You would like to be a part of their life. And so it is a good season for your relationship to develop friendship with these people, which can be difficult in teenage years, can be difficult when they are small because it is not a balanced relationship, or at least the needs of the relationship allow it to be imbalanced in terms of where the hierarchy or the authority lies. Now that they are your equals, it is time to begin to see them as equals. And you are correct, this generation is not as programmed to do those things, but even as you were speaking of them, there was some subtle aspect of you that thought that perhaps that programming had been a good idea. It did benefit you in some ways, but it also did take away from you in some ways. The same way you are being asked now to experiment in your own life, the entire collective is in a new experimentation. They are in an experimentation that is wildly more free than, yes, even one generation past, and again, as well, the generation previous to that. So these beings are being asked to have their journey with a completely different set of rules as yours is or was. But the good news is you are also in that world. The changes that have happened in your collective can sometimes not be seen as clearly by those who have been there for quite a while. You have memories of things that are long gone that seem like they were yesterday. You also have these two beings that are directly connected with you that are informing you on how things currently are. Mom, it is wonderful that I'm following my dreams and goals, and I am sure that everything will work out okay for me. This is a belief that is coming through this person. What you are being asked to do is see if that belief is something that would serve you as well or not. Not to see if it serves them. They will figure out if that belief serves them in time, on their own skin, in their own experiencing. And you, yes, can be there should anything go wrong to wipe their tears and bandage their scraped knees the way you always have done.
Yeah. Yes. And I think for one of my children, for my older son, I think he's pulled between the two because probably because of our influence. And like you said, you picked up on that subtle thinking that old way of doing there's still some validity there. So I think he picks up on that. So feels less of the freedom to experiment and find his joy. And so I do want to find ways to support him, to encourage and reassure him that following that is definitely the way, I don't know how to say it, but I do want to be thought of in a way of being supportive of that direction.
Yes, well, then the best thing to do is to lead by example. Does he see you as one who believes what it is you are sharing with him as a belief that you would like for him to hold?
Wow. No, I think that's part of the struggle as he sees both myself and his father, who is very much in the work hard, early bird gets the worm kind of mentality. And I think he sees that and doesn't desire that for himself at all. So I guess I've been an example of the contrast, which might help him direct. So I guess we both could probably figure this out together. I could probably use his counsel and guidance as I'm starting to try to integrate and experiment with finding more joy and excitement. So that is very interesting.
Yes, this is exactly what we mean by the season of your friendship, in that there is wisdom in this being for you. That has always been there, by the way. You do not produce children. You allow another being into your experience as a soulmate that then evolves in their physical form, but does not change on their spiritual form. They've always come in to be this level of teacher for you. See, if you reflect upon your relationship throughout the years, that there have been other moments of deep wisdom that have come through, you observing perhaps what you wanted for him and realizing that it was not something that you were even giving to yourself.
Mm.
So allow yourself to move into that space of, yes, communicating this with him. It is fine for you to have direct conversations about this with him. Share with him what you would like for his life. Allow yourself, again, here, the experimentation, because we do know that these kinds of conversations can feel frightening or can feel intimidating, even to a parent, because you are afraid that the person will not hear you or that it would cause a rift or whatever it might be. But you can allow yourself to be vulnerable with him in ways that perhaps were not appropriate when he was younger and could not understand.
Wow. Yeah. Yeah. That definitely resonates. Yeah. And it's perfect timing. They're both going to be home for 3 weeks for the holidays. So it'll be a good time to practice and start to look at them, like you said, as any other. It's so interesting to think about that. If I were to have just met them in their current state, then, how would I interact with them? What things would I want to do? It's just a complete shift of the way that I think about them now in that caregiving, what can I do for them type of role, or what can I do with them? What can I learn from them? So that's really a huge opportunity. So
And does it feel like more ease?
So I don't know that it feels more ease yet, but what it does feel is excitement, like just kind of I've never thought about it like that. That's kind of fun.
Yes, it is fun. And it is an opportunity for you to get to know them on a different level and also for them to get to know you.
Yes.
Many a person goes through their life without knowing their parents at all.
Right.
And that is a loss. They often find out only at the end of the parent's life who that person was. And then they still have many left questions.
Yeah. Yeah. And I even think about that on the other side with my mother. And the same opportunity exists there to think of her as a person and not just as my mother. And what a gift that is as she's older and to reimagine our relationship in that way. So I love all of that. That does raise my vibration as I think about that, and then what you said about imagining everyone else as if they were your child or connected to you in that way. That there's just so much in there. I'm excited about all of the different things, even at work, and it just the human relationships in my life. I think there's just so much in those few words that you said that will shift a lot of things. So
we are sure of it, and you have received it.
yes, thank you. And then I did have a strange question. I don't know a lot about dreaming. I do know that it's kind of when our soul can just work through and have the freedom to do and whatever needs to be done. But I found that I've had a lot of dreams with a lot of anger in it with people that I'm closest to. So arguments and screaming and fighting. And I'm just wondering, like, what I don't feel that anger on a daily basis, but yet I have these dreams of just being so angry. And I wonder if you have any insight around that.
So yes, dreams have many different functionality. They are glimpses into parallel realities. They are glimpses into the functioning of your brain processing emotions that are not necessarily, or information that are not necessarily useful to be processed in your waking hours. So we will speak to the anger as if it was something in your waking hour, explain what anger is a little bit further, and then ask some questions. Anger in and of itself is an emotion that, like any emotion that you could give the negative label to, is informing you of something in yourself that is not aligned with the way your higher self is seeing things, or with your desires, or with what the higher self is wanting for your experience. Anger specifically is an action motivating emotion. This is why, unfortunately, it does lead to violence at times, because with that motor of action, without the understanding of what to do with that energy that is coming through, many do resort to the actions coming through in a physical way, or in a screaming way, or in a blaming way. Anyway, there is action that can be had from the emotion of anger. The action, however, once understood what the anger actually is always a beneficial action. It is moving you towards what you are wanting next. So, for example, you are angry at someone because they have betrayed you in some way. You are not actually angry at that person. You have discovered that you do not like to be betrayed. Anger would not arise if you believed deeply that that person would not betray you again. If you believed deeply that that person would not betray you again, you would be able to have a calm conversation with them, tell them how their actions impacted you, and move on from it, because you would have a relationship in which your conversationing with them did come to satisfactory results. So you might be hurt by the betrayal, you might be disappointed by it, but you would not be feeling anger. The anger that comes from being betrayed is pointing you towards a belief that there's no way to resolve the problem, and therefore you are stuck. But the anger in and of itself is actually telling you, well, perhaps it is time to move on from this relationship altogether. This is just one example of what anger might be. Anger also might be someone has taken something from you, someone has done something to you, someone has said something to you. It is always the energy of you believing that you have no power, and the energy of that power coming back through you from your higher self in order to try to empower you back into a state of alignment. Reclaiming the property, or leaving the relationship, or finding a way to have justice in your experience. The fact that these are coming through in your dream state means that there is something that is calling for you to take aligned action too. It might not be coming through in your waking state because there isn't that fire underneath you yet, but the potential is there. Many beings have suppressed their anger because they believe that it is a problematic emotion. It is not. Once it is known to be what it is, the tool that it can be used very functionally. And there are many people who do have tendency towards anger, but have learned how to master it, and it can be a very empowering type of energy towards getting much things done in this world. Can you remember the context of the dreams?
I was trying to think of one. There've been such a variety of and it's usually like you mentioned, it is I'm feeling wronged in some way. It's definitely a blaming type of anger. I'm usually blaming the other person for whatever it is that I'm feeling at that time, but I can't remember specifics.
Then we will ask a more direct question. Do you feel valued in your close relationships?
I think I do. I think so. Maybe, yeah. Maybe I do in my family relationships, perhaps maybe not as much in my work relationships.
So we would say that it is not a strange question. You did say this is a strange question. It is simply things functioning as they should be functioning. If at such point anger does come through in your physical experience, then you now have the information that it is a positive experience and it is about re-empowering yourself. But for as much as you have these dreams, it's something that can be allowed and is benefiting to you.
Yeah. Well, I was always wondering if I was working something out in the dream state that, like you said, that I needed to work out in the waking hours, but that a lot of the work was being done in the dream state. And so that when I realize it in the waking hours, it might not be at that same level of intensity.
Yes. So do you have a computer?
Yes.
Do you get a notification every once in a while that something needs to be done and then it will be restarted?
Yes.
Are you yourself capable of doing all of those things that need to be done before it restarts?
No.
So allow your brain to have its functionality. In other words, you are not your brain.
Right.
Whatever happens in your non-waking hours, yes, can be observed by what you perceive of yourself, but ultimately are no more of your business than your nervous system telling your heart to beat.
Yeah.
Now, if you did have a problem with your heartbeats, you might become aware of it. In other words, if you had some sort of skipped beat or there was something wrong, you would be notified by your nervous system that, hey, something is going on and your heart rate is irregular. You would notice that. Regardless, you are a machine in many ways, and your dreaming or your different states of brain activity do have their functionality. So there's not much you have to do until you have a knowing that there's something that you have to do.
Okay. Yeah. That's great. And then the last thing that I was just hoping for just some general. So there was a period of time where I really wanted to channel or, really be open. I know we are always channeling, but I wanted a more overt version of it to appear. And I have had instances where I feel like I'm having a conversation with my higher self. Usually it's in like the kind of in between sleeping and waking hours. And so I know that communication is always happening. It's just whether I'm on the right frequency to tune into it or not. And so I just wondered if you had any kind of general suggestions for allowing, that wisdom for me to be able to tap into it a little more easily, or any tips around that.
So there are many ways that one can. For you, you could involve yourself in brainwave training, which would be in the form of meditation or certain breathing patterns. If you focused upon those, you would allow your brain to slow or quicken, because it can go either way, to the state in which it was able to receive more fully the information that you are always, yes, you're right, in contact with. Also, if you would like a more conscious agreement with that sort of interaction, your imagination is a valuable tool. Talking to yourself, basically, is one of the biggest doorways into what you call channeling or hearing that information from your higher self. Now, you have always been told that you are crazy if you are speaking to yourself, but ultimately, at some point in that practice, you will realize that many of the responses are not things that you have conscious awareness of. You will say to yourself, well, I'm making that up, or I am imagining that. Well, that is correct. Indeed, your imagination is powerful and your inspiration is powerful. Allowing that telephone to be taken off the hook, to listen to what is arriving from that receiver, even if it sounds like your own voice or an echo at first, will give you more access to the information that wants to come through, because ultimately it is all you already. But giving yourself the permission to go, you know what, whatever I'm imagining is real, is important, is valuable, allows you to open up to if there is anything else that is of a slightly different frequency of you that would like to come through. It is that willingness more than anything.
Yeah. Yes. And yes, I do feel like I do feel that there must be a little bit of resistance still, maybe a little bit of fear yeah, what would people think, or of allowing that more. And I think we talked about this the last time too, just allowing it to be more a part of integrating it more into my life versus having it kind of be this separate. My spiritual life is separate and here, and then everything else is here. So I think I'm still working through whatever resistance might still be there. But I think as I work through that, I do seem to be able to tap into that knowing and those conversations. And so that's exciting to think that will continue to grow and expand.
When you see yourself as someone who has open access to these types of information directly, what do you feel about that version of yourself that you are seeing?
I'm torn on that. So part of me sees it as, like a light, like that's amazing that you could be this light in the world and connect with people in this way, and just be living in this kind of just flow. And so I see that, but then at the other side, I see like, gosh, like what would people think, or who I start to already go through the list of like, well, who would accept it and who wouldn't, and what would that look like? So I think I'm, have one foot in one side and one foot on the other.
So you have just outlined your resistance. Your inner being loves you so much that it would never put you in a position of discomfort. So you will not have that full access up until such point as it would cause major discomfort for you. You do, if you have that desire, have the ability to work with yourself in releasing that discomfort, and that would come before those gifts are received, or not even received, acknowledged by you. But we will also tell you that we have spoken with many in your same position, and when they really do analyze that list of people, they find that the majority of the people who would judge them, they don't quite like anyhow. They find that the majority of the people who would judge them aren't quite that happy anyhow. And therefore, the opinions of those people who would judge them take less and less importance in their mind, in their brain, in their hearts as they move along. It is that they discover that, wait a minute, I always was that version of me. And I just happened to be hanging around with the wrong people. Therefore, I could not be the full version of myself because I wanted to maintain those relationships. As your self-value and your self-worth increases and your desire to be who you truly are increases, you will find your desire to please those people will diminish proportionally.
Yeah. I think the concern is that the person is my husband. That's where the judgment from the closest relationship that I have in my life.
And it might be the case that your husband, in the current level of understanding that he is in, is not in love with the full version of you.
Right.
That is a sad realization. But if you love him, you can give him the benefit of the doubt. And again, in this case, gently experiment.
Yeah. Yes, I have been doing that. And amazingly, it does seem like he has, in small ways, been open to another perspective on situations. And he has said that he appreciates my perspective, or that it helps him in some way. So I do see an opening.
Yes, and every time you take courage in the steps of transparency and love with someone, they are also shifting into the version of them that is more receptive to it. So you will find that, again, if you decide to be gentle with yourself and gentle with everyone, seeing him also as a person, then you can really put yourself in the position where everything does work out for the best. You get to be who you want to be. You get to have the career you want to have. You get to have the love that you want to have, and everything and everyone is in harmony.
Yeah. Yep. And that's exactly that harmony that has been kind of the theme of this last couple of weeks. That's the word that keeps coming up, and that is what I desire. So that's perfect that you just mentioned that.
Yes. We will also tell you that from our experience of talking with you, there's many a person who does come into a space where they say, well, I'm going to be myself come hell or high water. And then the high water and the hell does not arrive.
Yes. Yeah. I can see that. And even going back to where we started with even seeing him differently than I've been, with this label of husband and this relationship, but seeing him the way that I want to see the kids and treating him in that way, I think also will allow for a more transparent and open friendship conversation versus husband wife type of roles or responsibilities attached to those names. So yeah, I can be brave.
Yes, you can. You already are. And we do see that that is the case. In other words, you have that excitement in you when you allow yourself to have it. Lean upon that energy of, wow, look what's next. Look what's available to us. Look what's available to me. I can seek out the relationships I want, even without leaving my own home, even without changing a single thing. I can have this friendship, this companionship, this transparency, this vulnerability, this love, this connection, this compassion, this companionship, and this sympathy. Harmony with the people in my life. If I simply allow myself to recognize that they are exactly like me, each and every one of them is seeking their best version of happiness. Each and every one of them has hidden aspects that they've not shared with me for fear of my judgment or for fear of me not seeing it the same way that they do. I can be more open. I can be more flexible. And in doing so, they will be too. Work as well, by the way.
Yeah. Yeah. As you were talking, that I was thinking about that as well, those relationships. Yeah. I love that. That all of that fills me with a lot of hope and positivity and excitement about reimagining relationships and well, basically recreating my reality and my experience in my reality. So.
And what are your action steps moving forward?
So I definitely am going to experiment with letting go of some of the control in the working life and diverting some of that time that I spend on that to pursuits of more just fun and joy or taking care of myself. So I will be doing that. And then also just, I think the biggest action step for me is in how I am going to be viewing all of the people in my life and the relationship that I have with them on just a different level.
Yes. Well, we would say then, for now, our work here is done. Would you not agree?
I would agree.
Yes. Then we leave you with the love and the light of 1,000 suns. A 9-9. Well, I hope you gained a lot from that session. I know I did, and I'm super thrilled to be able to now navigate my life thinking about every single person I meet as simultaneously a part of who I am, as if they're my children, and also as the unique manifestation of divinity that they actually are. Remember, it is so appreciated when you like, you subscribe, you send me a comment. I always really enjoy reading and responding to the comments, so you will hear back from me. And I'm thrilled for you to check out this next video. Bye-bye.